Chers auditeurs,
Dear listeners,
bonjour.
Welcome to Comme d'Archi Podcast Season 6.
Saison 6 dans le monde fascinant des architectes.
and in the architectural projects.
Je suis Anne-Charlotte Deponte, passionnée d'architecture et docteur des universités en histoire de l'archi.
I am one of the spokespersons of Anne-Charlotte, who is a PhD in architecture history.
Merci
Thank you
d'être avec moi aujourd'hui.
to be with us today.
Et
And
maintenant,
now,
lundi en français, place au talent.
and Wednesday, let's talk projects. In English, of course.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Dear listeners, good morning. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. It's good to meet you again in season 6 of Comme d'Archi with a text by the famous French architect Vincent Pareja himself. It is about two projects of his AAVP office, Nudge and Tolbiac projects. Hi, my name is Vincent Pareja. I'm an architect and I founded AAVP in 2000. I was a laureate of the Villa Médicis Hors-les-Murs, which took me to Brazil for 2 years. My career and studies have taken many forms, and today I'm a Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres. The studio, made up of more than 20 architects and its two strong partners, Marie Brodin and Éric Crochu, aims to create a contextual architecture based on use, links, and sensuality. Nudge, the first Nudge building. The Nudge building is the product of intense innovation. A large team structured around two project owners, Ogic and Cogedim, and two architects, Catherine Dormois and Vincent Pareja, proposed for the first time in France to link architecture and behavioral sciences. It reviews the methods of designing a building, adding sociological and anthropological dimensions, the use of which must produce immediate and concrete results on the user, the inhabitant, for the improvement of well-being, the encouragement of eco-gestures, and conviviality. Nudge's 133 housing units offer the opportunity to imagine the scalability of the living space. On a daily basis, they stimulate meetings and exchanges between neighbors, combining intimacy and openness. The nudge is a gentle method to inspire the right decision. It inspires people to behave in ways that are better for themselves, society, and the planet. Entirely wooden, virtuous, and efficient, the Nudge building opens up widely to the city, its facade being drawn around a grid revealing large wooden loggias for all the dwellings. The access paths to the houses are carried by a vertical landscape animated by a rich palette of plants. A real place of exchange and sharing for the inhabitants, they offer in their dilatations places of various attractions, sports practices, fitness trails, DIY and gardening workshops, a large kitchen open to all, an open-air cinema, but also large spaces conducive to idleness and contemplation. This vertical village envelopes within itself like an agora, fair and solidarity trades, under a vegetal and poetic canopy. The nudge works on real behaviors, and housing thus becomes a political instrument. In the noblest sense of the term, an instrument of societal transformation. This project proposes an innovative typology of urban microcosm that is inserted into the heart of the urban fabric of the city. The resulting building is divided into multiple zones and layered functions, creating an environment that gives consistency to neighbors as partners in creative human relations, a fleshed-out interstitial space between city and home. Particular research is focused on housing to design a habitat close to selling by the meter. That is to say, to allow access to housing according to one's needs and according to one's means. to offer apartments with the scalability and flexibility of great wealth. It is no longer the inhabitants who adapt to their housing, but the housing that adapts to the inhabitant, follows their life paths, the evolution of their family, adapts, shrinks, expands. It allows intergenerational exchanges, strengthens and maintains social ties. Tolbiac Project. For a long time, the intersection of Rue du Tolbiac and Rue du Chevaleret heralded a change in the Parisian landscape, the transition from a dense suburb to a world of railroads, an industrial river spanned by a metal bridge. At the crossroads of the old city and the city in the making, the project aims to fit in with its site without idealizing the past, evoking a particular Parisian history to give back an identity of its own to a housing operation of its time, open to the city while filtering out its most invasive nuisances and stimuli. Urban cliffs. The site occupies a doubly strategic position, at the corner of two streets separated by a difference in level of almost 7 meters. The staircase historically linking the two roads runs along the edge of the site, formed by the joining of two plots of land. Craft workshops and warehouses built between the 1920s and 1960s have been replaced by a mixed-use development comprising 3,000 square meters of retail space and 5,000 square meters of housing. The distribution of the retail space between the first floors of the two streets minimizes the impact of the business, which provides a base for the housing that extends from the ground floor to the first floor on Rue du Chevaleret. The 88 apartments are divided between 4 blocks, 3 of which are linked by shared outdoor spaces, and an independent block on the 3rd floor courtyard level. The balcony grid unifies the 3 parts of the project, rising to the 7th floor and the 9th floor. A mixed wood-concrete project. The duality of wood and concrete guides the design of the project. Concrete's mechanical qualities, fire resistance, and acoustic attenuation capabilities led to its use in the structure. Larch is used as cladding on all surfaces, while the timber-framed wall structures and the vertical uprights of the facade are made of Douglas fir. The visible wooden elements have been autoclaved to a dark color reminiscent of the facade of the old warehouses and hangars of industrial Paris. Solid wood was preferred to glued laminated timber for the facade posts, with the intention of enhancing the material's qualities, developing an architectural aspect reminiscent of the natural origin of this element, and breaking with the glued reconstituted products usually used in timber construction. Glulam elements are used on an occasional basis to create curved beams supporting common spaces. Gaps and gaps. The distinction between architecture and construction is often seen in the details. A subtle interplay governs the placement of the vertical posts of the balconies. They don't follow a regular grid, as one might think at first glance, but shift laterally and vertically by 10 centimeters at each level, gradually cobbling into the street space. This device enlivens the facade and increases the surface area of the balconies as the stories rise. The grid that unites the various blocks on the street side absorbs the voids left between each block. On the courtyard side, the interstices become communal spaces, at once terraces and small squares, with hoppers visually linking the different levels, and the addition of extraordinary features such as nests, hanging lounges shared by residents. The maze of circulation revisits the cheerful disorder and surprises of the backyards of Paris's industrial suburbs. 2 years of pandemics helped to measure the value of these spaces, open to all residents, offering an alternative to the home, and enabling all residents to enjoy views over the city. The garden roof, open to all, opens out at 240 degrees onto a panorama that stacks up several decades of Paris's evolution and onto the sky. Typological diversity. The insertion of 3 terraced houses in the ground floor courtyard both complicates and enriches the pathways through the heart of the block. The north-south gradient has led to the distribution of these dwellings on the principle of descending duplexes, with access from the ground floor courtyard, the garden side being 1 level lower on the opposite facade. A linear band of balconies runs along all the facades of the apartments. Its thickness varies according to the floors and the need for articulation between the different faces of the building. Many units have direct access to the common areas, while others have to pass through a corridor separated from the exterior common areas by a glass door. In the enclosed communal areas, the treatment of details is reminiscent of the world of luxury hotels, with the use of individualized lighting for the entrance doors and textile flooring adorned with a floral motif. This sophisticated note crowns the home's precious dimension. It's amplified in the lobby, which features marble flooring, anodized woodwork, and lighting fixtures that reinterpret the Grand Century sconce in an ironic offbeat tone. An undulating double-glazed wall separates the hall from the street. The play of reflections and transparencies produced by the glass wave means that the public-private divide is never quite where you expect it to be. Reminiscent of a funfair ice palace, this seemingly simple device announces the project's intentions: to reenchant the peaceful home. Dear listeners, thank you for tuning in. Let's meet again next week for a new Comme d'Archi in English. And until then, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening.
And thanks to the sound engineer who was collaborating with us today.
Don't forget to tune in to our previews on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't hesitate to promote it by giving it 5 stars and a little comment on Apple Podcast or on your favorite podcast platform. And above all, subscribe to listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.